Hi lovelies, Sally Warnani. I hope you're keeping well and welcome to a new video. If you're new to my channel, then my name's Prim. Definitely stick around and get to know me. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing a bit more about contraception and family planning. I'm actually going to focus on the coil in particular, and this is a hormonal coil, the Mirena coil, which on average can be inserted or placed for 3 to 5 years. It has different side effects and different reactions like most contraceptions do. Just a quick caveat, I'm obviously not a healthcare professional, a nurse, a gynecologist or anything in the sexual health industry. However, I do feel like it's good to share experiences, especially ones that are positive, in case there is someone that is considering this as a potential option in the future. So I've made some notes on my phone because I didn't really want to get sidetracked, and I thought that one of the things that I would start with is kind of going through the myths and some of the things that I came across before I just give you guys a quick rundown of my experience. So a lot of people experience side effects on the pill, and I think on average that's probably the first type of contraception that people are exposed to. Here in the UK you can either access it through your GP or through sexual health clinics. Now I think on average like 75 to 80% of people tend to have adverse side effects, or not adverse but things that they don't like when they're on the pill. So people have started to kind of experiment a bit more, and that's what I was driven by. I definitely felt like there were issues in the past with spotting irregularities in terms of my periods, a change in consistency, a change in mood. But in particular, I always realised that there were also elements of weight gain, and that didn't make me very happy. One of the first myths while I was looking into this is that it's not as effective as the pill. So with the coil, you know, it is as effective, if not more, because it's actually permanent. So the process is that you have the coil placed in your vaginal canal, and you have an option of having your coil for 3 or 5 years. So for me personally, I went for the 5-year option, and it was probably 3 months after my son was born. And I felt like it was the best option because we were still in baby bubble, and we just felt like it was probably a good decision to make, as we weren't planning on having any more children in like that near future when we were at that point. And you know, it's 99% effective in preventing pregnancy. I know that for some people there are issues with lost coils or coils that drop out, and here I will insert a picture of what the average coil looks like. One of the other key things that comes up is that it affects pregnancy. That's another myth that comes up, and actually in essence fertility should remain the same. Now I know that there are cases where people have that 1% window where they experience ectopic pregnancies, and obviously that type of pregnancy isn't viable and you can't move forward with it. But I think that's kind of on the rare occasion. So generally with the Mirena coil, which I have, it can be removed anytime you choose. So although I haven't got to my milestone point, if we decided that we wanted to go on a trying to conceive journey, then I could actually book an appointment. As soon as I get the appointment to have it removed, then that would be that. So you know, you do have some control. Obviously the process of getting appointments and waiting, it's not as immediate as stopping the pill and deciding, right, I want to get those hormones out of my system. It is a little bit different. Another myth when I was looking into this is about how it messes up your hormones. It should essentially have a minimal impact on hormones, and as females we all know that our monthly cycle, depending on how you are, people will react differently at certain points. So you know, obviously it is releasing a small amount of hormone into your womb, but for most women it shouldn't really affect you. I think there will be cases where some people might feel like nauseous, or some people experience headaches, you know, tenderness of breast. But I remember that actually even after the point of having my coil placed, I didn't feel any sort of change in myself or my well-being per se, or a response to it. If I'm honest, it felt quite similar to a smear test, if you've ever had that, which is just an examination of your cervix area, and yeah, I think it's also going to be a little bit different if you have experience having children. It doesn't feel, in my opinion, as scary or challenging. It's just another medical examination. Now, another thing that I was really concerned about is the idea of my periods being heavier. However, over time, I've realised that their length in terms of days, I think I'm like an average of like 5 days, has definitely reduced to more of like 3 days. And it is much lighter. One thing that I did notice using the coil, unlike before when I wasn't on contraception or when I was on the pill, is that I don't get like a cramping feeling, like a warning sign ahead of my menstrual cycle. So that's worthy to note, and just to kind of keep a tracker so you know your pattern. Otherwise, you know, it can catch you off guard. And one of the key things to note about the reduced period is that the Mirena coil, the hormones that are released are there to kind of thin the lining of the womb, so it kind of makes sense that over time you would have less of a heavier period, or you would find that your period stops. So another key one, which might be obvious to some but might not always be obvious to others, is that the Mirena coil obviously doesn't protect you from STIs or anything. So you'd actually be at more risk because of the placement. So you'd have to be quite vigilant and consider using an alternative along with that coil placement just to keep yourself safe. So those are kind of the key myths that I had to navigate, and I just thought I'd share a little bit about my experience, considering that I'm coming to the end of having had my Mirena coil placed. It has been about 4.5 years. And for me, I was really motivated by the length of the contraceptive protection, just because we are a young couple and we'd had a son, and we just felt like we really wanted to be more intentional with growing our family, and a long-term solution was the best option for us. I say us, but really it was kind of a decision that I made. Obviously I informed him, and I was really driven by the ease of not having to set an alarm to kind of remind myself to go and take any pills or anything. There wasn't a need to go frequently if I had gone for something like the injection, and I didn't really want anything as invasive that could potentially leave a scar. I've had friends who have had implants and things like that, and I just feel like the level of scarring had really put me off. On some occasions when it was time for the implant to be removed, they had real big challenges, and it just really put me off. When I read around the Mirena coil, which is the IUS coil, I used the NHS website as a reference point, and I felt really confident in the level of information that was given to me about, you know, what to expect. And when I read through some of the side effects, I felt like they weren't as bad. They were more manageable, and I think I was really excited by the idea of the reduced periods, I'm not gonna lie. Now, when it came to the day of insertion, it was probably all in all a half an hour appointment. There was, I want to say 2 ladies, and one was a doctor, one was a nurse, and they discussed the process with me, how the placement was going to happen, you know, what to expect. They did again discuss the level of discomfort. And when we went through the insertion process, that probably took about 5 to 7 minutes average, and then I was able to just partially rest on the bench and then get ready, and I was off. So on the day and within the next 24 hours of insertion, I did feel some cramping, and naturally the advice was to refrain from any sexual activity, just to monitor how my body was getting on with the insertion, just to make sure it didn't reject it. I was given advice about how to care for myself in terms of cleanliness and everything, you know, not to do anything outside of the norm. And generally, I felt, for me personally, the experience was really positive. It was on the NHS, and it wasn't at my GP, it was actually at a sexual health clinic, because I just felt like it was easier to get the appointments and the flexibility. Now, having had the coil and having gone through the process over the last couple of years, I did definitely notice a difference in terms of weight gain, and that's something that I'm battling at the moment, but I do imagine that I'll probably see an even better difference once I've had it removed. No changes in my skin. I would say personally no changes in my hormones and my personality or how I present. I think, like I mentioned, you know, there was a reduction in the intensity of my cycle, and overall I think it's been really good. We haven't had any issues with scares, and it's been really consistent. I personally think it's one that I would recommend if you know that you aren't necessarily planning on having any children in the near future, because it is just a really quick and easy one-time stop. Once you've done the process, as uncomfortable as it might sound, you're kind of good to go and you don't have to think about it again. So I think it's really convenient, and it's a really good option if you're looking at potential long-term contraception options. So I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of information about the Mirena coil, which is often referred to as the IUS coil. If you've got any questions, then pop them down in the comments below. Let me know if you are impartial to long-term or do you prefer short-term contraception options, and how do you go about family planning. Until the next video, guys, thanks so much for watching. Take care.